TGIF, it's Friday, September 5th, 2025. This Day Weather Podcast brought to you by the Advocates Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, don't face it alone. Get an experienced local Wyoming attorney on your side. Free consultations at wyomingadvocates.com or call 307-800-1952. You deserve an advocate. Cool and smoky weather for a lot of you, especially along the Front Range, along and east of I-25 out into the plains, as cool Canadian air and cool Canadian air with Canadian smoke will continue to drape over the region today, but there's some improvement that will be coming tomorrow. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But you can see from that photo there, a lot of smoke moving into the area yesterday, about as thick as it's been in some locations this summer season. So we do see some improvements as winds change a bit, and actually it may be raining this weekend and early next week on some of those British Columbia fires. Now, we're going to continue to have showers and thunderstorms along and west of the divide and in the southwestern United States today, and that'll continue into the upcoming weekend. That moisture west of the divide does pivot northeastward, and this will be especially true for many of you to see Sunday and Monday, with thunderstorms coming over the divide and east of the divide by late in the weekend and early next week. We do have a trough. Another one comes off the Pacific and settles into the Great Basin mid to late next week. That'll change winds aloft and make them more from the west-southwest, which will hopefully keep that Canadian smoke out of here and also give us moderate temperature conditions. But also with that trough settling into the Great Basin towards the middle to the end of next week, that could result in some shower activity, especially west of the divide. But we have some pretty significant model differences in the long term, which this time of year becomes more apparent. The models have a difficult time when you start to get into the transition period from going one season to the next, and that's to be expected. Now here's a shot before the smoke or after the smoke, not sure when, but a beautiful shot there near Terry Lake, near Fort Collins, Colorado, and then purple sunset and pink colors there in the Black Hills area. Combination of lower to mid-high clouds and smoke in the air making for those colors, and just some very thick, hazy smoke across many areas east of the Continental Divide yesterday. And today, in some areas, we're going to have a problem with that. Of course, when you have smoke, you're going to get a red moon with the smoke diffracting the light, causing that red color. Now, if you're wondering where the smoke's coming from, the real main culprits are up here, up into British Columbia, into parts of the Pacific Northwest where some fires have started up into the Oregon, Washington area, but it's really the British Columbia fires and the direction of the winds aloft, just perfect to bring that plume in. The forecast for today, in terms of the worst air quality, there's going to be some improvements up here. There'll still be smoke. But we're going to see on the Front Range, southeastern Wyoming, the Front Range of Colorado, you can see that we've got a darker shading color here, which means air quality will be worse. And also into California, where a new fire got started here late last week. Tomorrow, the air quality forecast, and what I'm showing you is not a smoke forecast, but air quality. But you can infer that there's less smoke if you're not in one of those orange or yellow areas. Tomorrow, the smoke forecast does show some subtle improvements, especially along and east of the divide. We have air quality alerts in effect for today in these gray areas. This is for poor air quality. A lot going on in this map. We have freeze warnings in effect for western North Dakota for tonight into Saturday morning. Freezing or below freezing temperatures in those western North Dakota counties. And very hot conditions there in central Oregon. We have flood watches in effect for parts of New Mexico. These are flash flood warnings just east of Las Vegas this morning. In fact, you'll see them on the satellite imagery here in a second. The winds aloft show you why the wind's bringing, even though the air is going up, it comes right back down again, causing that air out of western Canada to come in on the backside of this trough. And on the satellite imagery this morning, you can see very well the low clouds here along the frontal boundary, especially right here, classic stratus clouds in upslope behind the cold front. Thunderstorms here. This is what caused flash flood warnings just east. I mean, it just missed the Las Vegas metro area. That could have been a flash flood in Las Vegas. Stayed just east of there. So St. George into southwest Utah, some heavy thunderstorms overnight and early this morning. And you can see the remnants of the hurricane going into northwest Mexico here this morning. So quite a contrast between what's going on either side of the divide. Here's the cold air today. These are the temperature anomalies as of noon Mountain Time today. Tomorrow, you can see the cooler air starts to shift more to the east and to the south. Moisture-wise, that big contrast between the drier air on the plains, as you can see in the brown, and the deeper moisture in the greens and the blues along and west of the divide. So thunderstorms today will form in that area in that deeper moisture. So there will be some showers and thunderstorms under that axis, and that axis shifts north and east slowly. So today's thunderstorms, tomorrow's thunderstorms, Sunday's thunderstorms. So you can see there's a bigger movement of that axis as we get into Sunday and as we get into Monday. And that will change the wind pattern aloft, again helping with the smoke situation. And that's by Monday. So you can see the axis rotates its way through as this next trough comes in. This is for Wednesday and next week. Now, after Wednesday and next week is when the models have a difficult time discerning what's going to happen. But with this trough settling into the far western areas of the United States, that should help with higher humidity air and better chances of precipitation in some of the fire areas in California, the Pacific Northwest, and British Columbia. The southwest winds aloft will bring a warming trend to a lot of the nation's midsection that's going through the very cool weather that we have now. So this will cause a little bit of a warm up in this part of the country here that's so cool at the moment. The question is, what happens after Wednesday? And this is where we get a deviation. Some models want to cut this low off and meander it through the Rockies well into next weekend, which would be a cooler, wetter signal for the Intermountain West late next week and next weekend. Some other models want to just take all of this and consolidate into one low and push it up here into south central Canada. Don't really know which one I buy at the moment. The European model cuts the low off and keeps it all the way back over southern California and starts to bring strong jet stream winds into the Pacific Northwest by next weekend and more of a west to east flow across the nation. But the artificial intelligence version of the European model is much different. And this is what I talked about at the beginning. When you get into mid to late September, into October, when you're starting to push the modeling past 7 to 10 days, and you have all of these changes going on in the higher latitudes of the much longer nights, the shorter days, the changes, the daily changes in temperatures and conditions at the higher latitudes are much more than they are in the summer. So there's more things for the models to track, is the best way to describe it. So you have to be really, really careful with your favorite weather app, your 7 to 10 day forecast this time of year. This is something we harp on during the winter season, and now we'll start to harp on it as the seasons begin to change. If you look at the AI version, it's quite a bit different. It may not look on just paper real quick, but there's quite a big difference here. There's a lot of separation between the jet stream and this upper level low over Utah by next Saturday. If this situation happens, well, then you have moisture just circulating around the low and you kind of keep it in place. And this could be a cooler, wet pattern for the Central Rockies next weekend instead of one that's quite a bit more mild and, frankly, a lot drier. So we'll see what happens. So we'll kind of stop here through the middle of next week. And then as we get into Monday and Tuesday next week, we'll have a better idea on the weekend following this one. Have yourself a good weekend. We'll see you Monday.